MSW Media.
So yeah, now it's clean up on aisle 45 time. And for a long while yet, it is going to be clean up on aisle 45.
Welcome to episode 205 of Clean Up on Aisle 45. It's Christmas Day, Wednesday, December 25th, 2024. I'm Allison Gill.
Harry Dunn here. Happy Christmas. I love Christmas. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I wish I looked outside and I saw snow falling, but here in Maryland, the DC area, that's not the case. We have so much to cover today. I hope we can get to all of it. First, the Georgia Court of Appeals has disqualified the great Fani Willis and her office from prosecuting the 2020 election RICO case against Trump and over a dozen co-defendants. A judge denies Mayor Eric Adams' motion to dismiss his federal bribery charge. And we also have an update on the Arizona 2020 election case. And Republican senators are calling for access to Pete Hegseth's background check. It's a lot going on.
Yeah, and that's not all. And I'm interested about the Pete Hegseth thing because it's pretty rare for all of the senators of the committee to get those background checks. Usually it's just the heads, the chairs. But like I said, that's not all. The Matt Gaetz ethics report is out. Yeah. Plus, we have a review of Kash Patel's content for the Epic Times that hopefully will come up during his confirmation hearing, if there are confirmation hearings. And of course, an update on Rudy, which we always like to end with. But first, we have our monthly Hall of Fame patrons to shout out. Harry, these are our top donors.
Top donors, okay.
Yep. And we read their names once a month. So the contributions these folks make are invaluable to being able to, cover all the costs of production and editing and publishing and all that stuff. So a really, really big, huge thank you to Laura Saba, January 20 Baby, Je suis fatigue, Greg Kreimer, Jens Elstrup Rasmussen, Democracy Cannot Survive Unregulated Capitalism. AG promises her next tour will be Baltimore. I know who you are. And I'm trying to come to Baltimore forever. Tiffany Trump was adopted. Patty B. Devil went down to Georgia. He was looking for an election to steal. He was in a bind. He was way behind by 11,780 votes. And Deborah Kirby. Our Hall of Fame patrons always have the most entertaining names.
Those are some pretty good names right there. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, thank you. And if you want to become a patron of Clean Up on Aisle 45, support our work, support independent media, support high wages, support health benefits, and all that good stuff, you can do so by going to patreon.com/aisle45pod, AISLE45POD. And in exchange for your gift, you will get these episodes ad-free. You'll get them early, the day before they come out, sometimes 2 days before they come out, depending on how fast our production staff wraps up editing and making us sound super silky smooth. You'll get invites to our meet and greets, like our galas and VIP pre-sale tickets and VIP at live events and shows and just all sorts of really cool stuff. Again, so that's patreon.com/aisle45pod. All right, let's kick this off with a brief mention of the Matt Gaetz report from the House Ethics Committee. The 42-page report was released in full Monday morning after Congress left town. Gaetz sued hours before it's released to try to stop it, but it's too late now. We have it. And he's, of course, vowed retribution. He says, if this comes out, I'm going to tell the whole world about all your sexploits in Congress. And he says he's going to release all the dirt. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene has said that, too. I'm reading an audio version of the report. It looks like it's going to be 2 episodes. That's going to be for the public. It's free. It's in the Daily Beans feed. Both episodes are, by the time you hear this, are probably out. I've already recorded the first one. So go ahead and get that and listen to it if you don't have time to read it. It's pretty messed up. And, Harry, the thing that, on top of the fact that no charges were brought federally, and there's a lot of reasons for that are outlined in the report, charges weren't brought in Florida, which is a huge bummer. I know Pam Bondi was the attorney general until 2019. And, for federal charges, if the person tells you they're over 18, it can be hard to get a conviction. for statutory rape.
If they tell you they're over, if they lie about their age.
Right. Or you don't know if you have good evidence that you didn't know. But in Florida, there's no excuse for not knowing their age. Even if they say, oh, I'm 21 and show you a fake ID, you still are supposed to be charged with statutory rape. So the Florida charges would have been stronger, but none were brought at all. And the other thing that upset me is that Gaetz obstructed Congress, which is a violation of federal law, Title 18, U.S. Code 1505, I believe, if I'm getting that right off the top of my head. And that all of that obstruction happened in 2023 and 2024. So I don't understand. For me, there's no excuse why Garland's DOJ didn't at least open an obstruction of Congress investigation. And if they did, they should have told us about it, because I think there's enough public interest to talk about it. Because Garland's DOJ told us that they weren't bringing charges against Rudy Giuliani for his Ukraine stuff in the Southern District of New York. They told us they weren't bringing charges, or at least they told Gaetz, and knew that the Gaetz was going to tell us that they weren't going to bring charges against him. So because of the public interest in those cases, and I think that the same should have been done here. So if there was an obstruction of Congress investigation, I think that we should have been told, if they declined to prosecute, why they declined to prosecute. And if there wasn't an investigation open to obstruction of Congress, why not? Did the committee not tell the DOJ that Matt Gaetz was obstructing their shit? Like, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, something's off here. You know, it's weird. And also remember, this is while Matt Gaetz was a sitting member of Congress. He got elected in 2017. So all of this stuff was going on. And oh, by the way, I find it really rich that when his statement, it was like, a long time ago, I did some things. Like, dude, this was like 5 years ago. Like,
right.
He's making it seem like it was 30, 40 years ago in another life. Like, this was like 5 years ago. So I'm really confused about why charges were not brought. Yeah, I have to go back and listen to you on the Daily Beans read it, because I don't have the time to sit down and read it. Which, another hand clap for Allison for going out above and beyond and reading this report. But I find it really interesting that no charges were brought, especially in Florida. You know, it's two things come to mind. Like you just said, did the ethics committee withhold these complete findings from the DOJ? Or was it some type of, not necessarily favoritism, but politics being played going on there? Wouldn't be surprised, especially during those times when Speaker Johnson could barely get elected to Congress. Get elected speaker. But even then, it's some weird theories going out. I'd love to see all the think pieces about it and everything. But to your point, what you just acknowledged, why wasn't there a public statement put out? I mean, his associates are spending time. Matt Gaetz' associates are in jail. They got convicted of crimes.
Right.
To know why Matt Gaetz was able to skate that accountability, that remains to be seen, especially when in this report, the headlines that I did see are very clear that crimes were committed.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't just ethics. He violated criminal law. So I'm curious to see how that plays out too.
Yeah. And, I have a theory.
Okay.
Because I always have a theory.
I like a good theory.
Okay. To set this up real quick, you remember when Lev Parnas, if you watched Lev, from Russia with Lev on MSNBC, or if you followed the Lev Parnas thing.
Yep, sure did.
He was set up as the fall guy by Trump's Department of Justice so that they could indict him, call him unreliable because he's a criminal, call him crazy, so that they could protect Rudy Giuliani, right?
Yeah.
From being indicted, which worked in the Southern District of New York. They didn't bring charges against Rudy Giuliani, likely because their star witness had been arrested and thrown in jail and was quote unquote unreliable as a fall guy. Michael Cohen was a fall guy to protect Donald Trump, right? And the Trump's DOJ told the Manhattan District Attorney, you must stop investigating the hush money case because we're investigating it in the Southern District of New York. And then they just sat on it for a year, trying to hoping that the statute of limitations would expire. They failed at that because statute of limitations were all told because of COVID in New York by the governor.
Yeah.
But Michael Cohen was a fall guy. I feel like Joel Greenberg is the fall guy in this particular investigation because I looked at the timing, Harry, and Biden's U.S. attorney didn't get to Florida until the same week they declined to prosecute.
Wow.
So the declination likely came from Trump's attorney general or the person who was acting in the place if that person had left. And Joel Greenberg, that the reason they gave was that their main witness was unreliable witness.
And in jail.
And in prison for 11 years. And so this feels like the same old situation that happened with Michael Cohen, the same situation that happened with Lev Parnas, where Trump's Department of Justice picked a fall guy, the star witness, indicted him, and made it nearly impossible for anybody to bring any charges and declined to prosecute. That's what I think happened in this case, but that doesn't preclude the friggin' Florida Attorney General from bringing charges in the state case.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something there. That fall guy theory, it is definitely something there. But with the fall guy, how does that benefit Donald Trump? I mean, does Matt Gaetz have that much favor where he has the ability to have a fall guy? And also, it was so funny going back when you mentioned him and Marjorie Taylor Greene getting ready to air out all the dirty laundry that's coming out. Didn't Madison Cawthorn do the same thing as he was leaving? When he was leaving Congress, he was talking about all the cocaine and orgies and everything that was happening in D.C.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these people are saying, hey, we're going to expose. Don't threaten us with a good time. Like,
let's hear it.
Graphic sex novels sell. Like, I want to hear all about this.
Yeah.
And then people hopefully can vote these people out accordingly.
Yeah.
But I won't hold my breath for that.
No, but it's, Congress. It's the itchy and scratchy show. Fight, 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 fight.
I love that show, by the way. You just brought me back memories, man.
So let's talk a little bit before we go to the break about some of these cabinet picks. Harry, what's up with Politico this week? What do they report?
Well, in other news about Trump's disastrous cabinet picks, Politico reports at least a dozen senators are pushing to see the FBI's background checks on Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump's embattled pick for Pentagon chief. Now, remember, Donald Trump, and there was talk that he wanted to not have these people undergo background checks. Mm-hmm. So there's something there. A rare move for the committee that oversees his confirmation and a sign the former Fox host still faces hurdles in the Senate. Unlike some other committees, the Senate Armed Services usually limits access to these types of background checks to his two lead senators. But pressure is building from both Democrats and Republicans to provide more lawmakers with the ongoing report, whose contents could determine whether Hegseth makes it to the Pentagon or not.
Yeah, spoiler alert, he should not make it to the Pentagon. He should not. Senators have various motives for seeking the report. Some Republicans, like Collins and North Carolina Senator Tillis, say the claims are serious enough to warrant greater access to the findings. While it's unlikely the FBI findings would be made public, they could still give Republican senators political cover to vote against Hegseth or support his defense, probably the former. The FBI's background investigation is expected to thoroughly examine Hegseth's personal and professional history, including interviews with associates, reviews of financial records, queries into past legal issues. If you've ever had a background check, it's thorough. Mm-hmm. The tradition of limited access gives Committee Chair Jack Reed of Rhode Island and Ranking Member Mississippi Senator Roger Wicker significant power over the process. By arrangement with the White House, the two senators typically review the FBI reports on nominees and without staff present, and consult with the administration if they want to release them more widely. Reid is facing pressure, though, from at least 8 Senate Armed Services Democrats, including Blumenthal, Kaine, Duckworth, Kelly, Warren, Shaheen, Hirono, and Gillibrand. They and Senator Angus King, who's an independent from Maine, say they want the report released to all committee members.
And let's talk about Kash Patel. NBC reports from 2021 to 23, Kash Patel made content for the Epoch Times, a news organization known for its far-right conspiracy theories, its association with a Chinese dissident religious group, and since June, a sprawling multi-million-dollar money laundering scheme allegedly perpetrated by one of his top executives. What? NBC News reviewed 79 episodes, 79, totaling over 45 hours of content featuring Patel and his co-host, Epoch Times senior editor Jan Jekielek.
Oh, man. I'm so sorry, NBC, that you had to listen to 45 hours of Kash
That's kind
Patel.
of like horrible, isn't it? Man, neither of whom is accused in the federal case. We must put that out there. Together, however, they spun detailed but unfounded claims of conspiracies involving government officials, law enforcement agencies, the media, and tech companies, among others, all aiming to rig elections, silence conservative voices, and undermine Trump's presidency and re-election.
And if he wants to bring cases, bring it. Discovery is my favorite. The show, this show, by the way, available only to Epoch Times subscribers, could receive fresh scrutiny because, he's got Senate confirmation hearings coming up, and his lack of experience, his promotion of politically motivated conspiracy theories in a book vilifying the FBI, and his public remarks promising to come after judges, lawyers, and the media involved in Trump's many legal investigations are also likely subjects. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
According to an indictment unsealed in June, Guan, the Epoch Times chief financial officer, oversaw a group within the company's Vietnam office called the Make Money Online team. Allegedly, the team used cryptocurrency to buy stolen funds, including debit cards loaded with fraudulent unemployment benefits at a discount, and then funneled the laundered money into Guan's and the Epoch Times bank accounts. Guan has pled not guilty and is awaiting trial. Prosecutors claim the alleged money laundering scheme netted the group $67 million.
Sheesh.
Harry, talk a little bit, because we talked about this. We covered it in detail on our bonus episode over the weekend, but you actually spoke to a senator about Kash Patel's nomination.
Yeah, while I didn't bring up this stuff right here, this goes to the point that I made when I sat down with Alaska Senator Murkowski to express my concern about the appointment, the nomination, confirmation of Kash Patel. Like, the FBI is one of the most, like I said, the most respected, revered law enforcement entities in the world. And to have somebody, Kash Patel has said on these shows, these 45 hours of interviews that NBC had to listen to, he said multiple times that he wants to defund the FBI and they should be abolished. And now you're seeking to run it? I mean, which one is it? Should the FBI exist? Or if it's up to Kash Patel, there is no FBI. So you don't need to oversee it, Mr. Patel. But also, it's supposed to be nonpartisan. And I think that's the part that sticks out with me the most. Not only is Kash Patel partisan, he's hyper partisan too. He's hyper partisan. He's talking about retribution and the deep state and these conspiracy theories. And it's a dangerous road that we're headed down should he seek confirmation. And I was able to discuss those things with Senator Murkowski and explain to her, one of the big things he talks about is January 6th. He's in denial about it. He's in denial that the election was stolen, which was the cause of January 6th. People believed the big lie that the election was stolen, and it wasn't. So, Kash Patel, I hope that the Senate takes this confirmation just as serious as they are taking Hegseth's with the Pentagon. But that'll remain to be seen. And I encourage everybody out there listening to apply pressure on their senators, write letters, make phone calls, request meetings. I was able to get one. I'm lucky. I spent close to 16 years on the Hill protecting those members, and I'm really grateful. And I'm hoping to get a couple more. So stay tuned on that front. But that just goes to show how dangerous Kash Patel is.
Yeah, agreed. Well, thank you so much, by the way, Harry, for using your voice as a power for good and to do what's right and keep us posted about future meetings.
Absolutely.
With members of the Senate.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make y'all aware here.
See if you could talk to Collins and see if you can get her to
I'm working on
furrow
that.
her brow a little bit.
I am working on the Collins
meeting.
meeting.
Because I know she has concerns about some of these nominees. At least she's voiced concerns about them. So again, thanks for using your voice to speak truth to power, my friend.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got more show, but we have to take a quick break. Everybody stick around. We'll be right back.
All right, y'all, welcome back. First, we have more Hall of Fame patrons to thank, including Ren, Special K, Kdu, Mr. Stu Padasso, Maria Tovar, Almoran,
I think so. Almoranen, maybe?
Almoranen, Kimberly D. Stephen, Star Lanus, Roberta Reed, Meg Alexander. The future is not looking bright. I kind of agree. And skintwalletsusa.com. Thank you all so much for supporting independent media and supporting us. All right, let's get back into the show. Let's talk about what happened in Georgia this past week. Anna Bauer of Lawfare posted on social media, Georgia Court of Appeals disqualifies Fani Willis from prosecution of Trump and others in Fulton County, citing conflict of interest. She continues, notably, the Court of Appeals declined to toss out the indictment entirely, meaning that another prosecutor could, in theory, take over the case. But the court says that Willis must be disqualified because there's an appearance of impropriety related to her romantic relationship with Nathan Wade. Fani Willis has filed a notice with the court that she intends to appeal the ruling to the Georgia Supreme Court.
Yeah, and it's important to note here that this ruling disqualifies her and her entire office from investigating this or prosecuting this. A similar thing happened early on in the case. You'll remember when Burt Jones, one of the co-defendants, he filed a motion to disqualify her and her office because she hosted a political fundraiser for Burt Jones's Democratic opponent for the Georgia State Assembly. The court removed her from the case and her office and disqualified the whole office, right? And that leaves the decision in the hands of the Georgia State Prosecuting Attorney's Council, headed up by a guy named Skandalakis. Now, it was their job to assign another prosecutor to the case, but instead of giving it to like the Cobb County DA or the Coffee County DA or some other DA, Skandalakis waited a year, then assigned the case to himself and then dropped it. For the disqualification for the rest of the defendants, including Trump, there were oral arguments scheduled for December, but the appeals court, you remember, took them off the calendar and didn't give us a reason, and they didn't reschedule it. And then they released this ruling disqualifying her and her office. But if the Georgia Supreme Court fails to overturn the disqualification, it's likely the entire case will disappear. It's likely Skandalakis will bury it again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's really unfortunate because I believe, when Fani Willis first announced these charges, I mean, it was like mugshot roulette. Everybody was turning themselves in. This was one of the most advantageous cases that was being prosecuted against Trump and his associates. And I think a lot of people were waiting for it. However, this got sidetracked with the investigating Fani Willis and her inappropriate relationship. It is really unfortunate because it appears to be headed to the point where it looks like there will be no accountability for these people and their false slate of electors, their attempt to overturn the will of the people in Georgia. And it's just really unfortunate. Did they announce when that she intends to appeal? How long do those appeals usually last, or how long will it take for the Supreme Court? Do they have to accept it? Is it kind of like our national Supreme Court? Do they have to say, hey, we're not going to hear it? Or what does that look like?
Well, it depends. I know federal court pretty well, but Georgia court is best left in the hands of experts.
Sure.
Like Tamara Hallerman, but also especially Anna Bauer at Lawfare. So if you are not yet following Anna Bauer on Blue Sky or any social media, I really recommend that you do, because she's been steeped in this case since the beginning. She knows the ins and outs, and she's very familiar with Georgia law, way more familiar than like myself, for example. And I usually, when I get my information about this case to share it with y'all, I usually get my information from folks like Anna Bauer. So follow Anna Bauer. I'll see if I can find answers to those questions. How long does she have before she has to file? Do they have to hear it within the next term of court? Can they reject hearing it, leaving the lower court standing in place? I'm assuming all those things to be true, but I don't want to misstate Georgia law or the Georgia court system. But I'll look for those answers. And again, like I said, Anna Bauer has them all. So definitely follow her. And I wanted to discuss one thing in this ruling. There was a dissent, a really fiery, awesome dissent from Judge Land. And Judge Land writes, because the law does not support the result reached by the majority, I respectfully dissent. I'm particularly troubled by the fact that the majority has taken what has long been a discretionary decision for the trial court to make and converted it into something else entirely. If this court was the trier of fact and had the discretion to choose a remedy based on our own observations, assessment of the credibility of the witnesses, and weighing of the evidence, then perhaps we would be justified in reaching the result declared by the majority. But we are not trial judges, and we lack that authority. Given the unique role of the trial court and the fact that this is the court which has broad discretion to impose a remedy that fits the situation as it finds it to be, we should resist the temptation to interfere with that discretion, including its chosen remedy, just because we happen to see things differently. Doing otherwise violates well-established precedent. It threatens the discretion given to trial courts, and it blurs the distinction between our respective courts. So what they're saying here, Harry, is like, we aren't the trier of fact here. The judge, Judge McAfee, he decided that she did not need to be disqualified as long as either her or Wade resigned, and Wade resigned.
Yeah.
And if we overturn that because we have different feelings, we become the trier of fact, and that blows up our whole court system in effect.
Yeah. No, I agree 100% with Judge Land. And also, Judge Land continues, here, the trial court expressly found that appellants failed to show that the district attorney had an actual conflict of interest, failed to show that she received any material financial benefit as a result of her relationship with Nathan Wade, failed to show that she had a personal stake in the conviction of any defendant, failed to show that her relationship with Wade involved any actual impropriety on her part, and failed to show that their relationship, including their financial arrangements, had any actual impact on the case. Because there was some evidence presented to the trial court that supported these findings, we are bound to accept them. The majority does not dispute these findings. Rather, it holds with the citation of no supporting authority, and apparently, for the first time in the history of our state, that the mere existence of an appearance of impropriety in and of itself is sufficient to reverse the trial court refusal to disqualify the district attorney and her entire office. As shown below, the law does not support this outcome. Rather, it compels precisely the opposite.
Yes, and goes on to say, whereas here a prosecutor has no actual conflict of interest, and the trial court, based on the evidence presented to it, rejects the allegations of actual impropriety, we have no authority to reverse the trial court's denial of a motion to disqualify. None. Even when there's an appearance of impropriety. Our binding precedent and the doctrine of stare decisis require our restraint and do not permit us to impose a different remedy than the one chosen by the trial court, simply because we might see the matter differently and might have chosen to impose another remedy had we been the trial judge. And then she goes on and does what you said there. She says, as shown below, the law does not support this outcome. Yeah. She cites multiple cases and instances in Georgia that don't comport with what the appeals court did in this case, and in fact, state the opposite.
This dissent is fantastic when you actually look into this. But Judge Land concludes with this. Every day in courtrooms all over this state, trial judges solemnly and diligently fulfill their constitutional obligations and perform a vital and indispensable public service when they convene hearings, listen to testimony, observe witnesses, make credibility determinations, resolve conflicts in the evidence, weigh the evidence, and exercise their discretion in countless ways. We should not lightly interfere with the work or weaken their discretion by imposing our will because we don't like the result. Because I am convinced that it is what the majority has done in this case. I respectfully dissent. Yeah. Wow.
Pretty powerful words. And again, just beating that drum over and over again. We are not the trial judges. We aren't the triers of fact. We didn't hear the witness testimony. We didn't make the decision. Judge McAfee did that. The trial court did that. And for us to overturn the will of the trial court, opposing all of our state precedent and stare decisis and all of the cases that she cited, or that Judge Land cited, that goes against our jurisdiction, our job. That's not what we are here to do as the appellate court. So Fani Willis has filed her notice for appeal. We'll see what the Georgia Supreme Court says. But as stated before, and as Anna Bauer pointed out, if the Supreme Court the state Supreme Court doesn't hear this case or upholds this appeals court decision, it goes to Scandalakis.
And that means it probably goes away.
Goes away.
This dissent, it basically just says, hey, read the job description and do our job, because this is not in our job description what we are doing here.
Yeah.
Let's just see how this plays out. It's important to keep our eye on it. Not those who are interested in the accountability for the defendants, but also the people believe in the justice system and how it works. And these judges, we need to pay attention to the decisions that they made when they come up for the appellate court. Those are appointed, those are appointed judges. I believe in Georgia. So either way, but we need to make sure that we're paying attention to these decisions, because as Judge Land said in the dissent, they make these decisions every day, every year throughout their courtrooms, and they don't want to have that credibility taken away from the judges. So we'll be watching this.
Yeah, it definitely undermines faith in the judicial system when certain people get certain treatment and others do not. All right, we have some Arizona stuff to cover. There's new stuff, actually, new subpoenas and new tranches of information, and we're going to talk about that, but we have to take another quick break, so stick around. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. We have more new Hall of Famers to thank, including David in Brooklyn, Sharon Tukalski. Sure, witch hunt is the phrase for how mean the justice system has been to a criminal while women die for no reason. At Dirt Road Dems, Steve Towell, Greg Robin Smith, a.k.a. Benjamin Franklin Live, Mr. Half Speed, Rose Flaherty, Suzanne Ashworth, and please don't read this on the pod. We don't need a call out. Thanks for what you do, which we still read every time.
We are going to read it on the pod. It's what we do.
Yeah. All right. We have some new information in the Arizona case against the fraudulent electors and the architects. This is from Kyle Cheney at Politico. The Arizona prosecutors who charged some of President-elect Donald Trump's top allies for their roles in his effort to subvert the 2020 election have obtained, but not yet reviewed, a large cache of their emails, texts, and phone records. Recent court filings show that Attorney General Chris Mays's team has obtained search warrants they obtained months ago for data from the Google and Apple iCloud accounts of close Trump allies, such as Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, and Boris Epshteyn. The data covers a 3-month period between November 1st, 2020 and February 1st, 2021. But a court order prohibits prosecutors from combing through the material until each defendant has had a chance to review it and screen out irrelevant information. And in the meantime, Harry, Mark Meadows has asked the judge in the case to just scrap all the data altogether, saying the search warrant was overly invasive. Well, that's what search warrants are. They're invasive, my dude. And lacked evidence of his connection to the conspiracy. Yeah, I've seen your text messages, bro. Arizona prosecutors are
all have.
Yeah, exactly. Arizona prosecutors are continuing to advance one of the only remaining significant criminal cases arising from Trump's 2020 gambit to stay in power. And the fight over the data shows the prospect that significant details of that effort may still remain shielded from public view. A grand jury convened by Mays in April indicted 18 Trump allies related to the 2020 plot. Everybody but Trump. Okay, so the Fani Willis case, it was just dismissed, 19 with Trump. This one, 18 without Trump. The grand jury identified Trump as a co-conspirator, but opted against charging him partly at the urging of prosecutors. The prosecutor said, don't charge him.
Don't do it. Interesting there. Kyle Cheney continues. The broader case against Trump's allies is continuing to advance, even as Trump prepares to take office and has largely succeeded in sidelining the cases in which he was criminally charged. But it hit a snag last month when the judge, Bruce Cohen, stepped aside after he was found to have called on colleagues to defend Vice President Kamala Harris from personal attacks made by her political adversaries. Cohen's successor, Judge Sam Myers, has since taken over the case. Notably, he recently pushed back a deadline at Meadows' request for efforts to challenge the grand jury proceedings, which could signal a slowdown for the case already expected to linger into 2026. The fight over the search warrants has been playing out quietly in court documents for the last few weeks and has provided new insights about the case Arizona intends to present against the Trump aides and allies, including 11 Arizona Republicans who falsely claimed to be legitimate presidential electors.
Yeah, and that's the MO here, right? Delay. I remember the 8 key witnesses in the federal case against Donald Trump that refused to testify, citing executive privilege, even though none of them were president. But saying that they're, well, I talked to the president, and Merrick Garland had to sue them all to get their testimony because he couldn't have gone forward with charges without their testimony. And it took a year. He sued and won, but it took a year because, the courts are backed up from COVID and it's a small, we have a federal bench doesn't have enough judges.
Sure.
And so they got him in the calendar as soon as they could. But man, it took pretty much all of 2022 to get those 8 key witnesses. And so this is the same kind of thing that they're doing here. And the article goes on to say that according to the records, prosecutors issued 10 search warrants to tech companies in April and May for data related to the 18 defendants charged in the case, including Google, Apple, and Twitter. Those warrants, issued just days after the indictment itself was made public, sought emails, texts, call records, contact lists, and geolocation data. The state obtained a voluminous cache of data in response by September and began curating it to share with the defendants. Last month, Mark Meadows asked Myers to suppress the evidence, saying the warrant lacked evidence that he committed crimes, that it was written too broadly, and that it resulted in the production of reams of personal data like photos and password information and FaceTime logs. Prosecutors rejected those claims, saying the search warrant was tailored to only 3 months in which the alleged crimes occurred and limited to potential evidence of crimes. If the companies produced too much information in response to those warrants, they said defendants can screen it out before investigators review it.
Interesting that they're letting the defendants say,
That's part of Arizona law, man. Yeah.
I know. And that's say, hey, you can't, you know what? Let's not let them see this. Crazy. It's interesting these works. The battle over search warrants also forced the reveal of new details about the case. For example, prosecutors told the judge who issued the search warrant that Meadows had confided in a staff member in early November 2020 that Trump had lost the election. Nevertheless, Trump wanted to keep fighting the election results and Meadows wanted to help Trump. Meadows argued, right? They knew it was stolen. I mean, they knew it was lost, but he wanted to help Trump go on.
Lie about it.
Yeah. Meadows argued that the notion of helping Trump was too vague to support the search warrant and provided no information about the staff member's identity. How the state obtained the information about Meadows' purported statement to the staffer, the reliability of the staffer, or whether the state made any attempt to verify the staffer's report. In their response, prosecutors said the evidence came from a witness known to investigators, not an anonymous informant offering a tip, who stated that Meadows had said he wanted to help Trump, despite knowing Trump lost the election. So this wasn't just some random somebody who emailed tips at FBI.gov. Like, this was a known person. It just wasn't some anonymous person.
Bro, this is a search warrant. It's supposed to be invasive, and you get to look at all of it and decide what's overly broad or doesn't relate to the case. And all of that other stuff you talked about is the witness credible? All that stuff comes out in pretrial motions in limine, and at trial, my dude.
Not during the search warrant, right?
Right. A judge signed off on a search warrant. You got a search warrant executed upon you. Hand over your stuff, man. You get the extra bonus of getting to look through it first.
That's it. And also, what you mentioned about this delay, which a lot of them want to do. The only thing here that makes that worse for them is they're going to continue to rack up legal expenses. It worked for Donald Trump because Donald Trump was able to get his legal expenses covered by selling fake gold watches or a piece of his suit that he wore in Butler or whatever. He was able to grift and continue to make money. A lot of these individuals are struggling with their legal bills, and hopefully these state prosecutors stand fast and keep on pushing back and not let them delay and run the clock out.
Yeah, agreed. All right, one other quick story here. After that ridiculously staged perp walk of Luigi Mangione, orchestrated by federally indicted Mayor Eric Adams, by the way.
Yeah.
Politico reports that a judge has denied Eric Adams' request to dismiss a bribery charge against him, the mayor. The ruling deals a blow to the mayor's effort to blunt the 5-count criminal case, alleging a long-running quid pro quo scheme involving the Turkish government. The bribery charge was one of the most serious of the bunch, and Judge Dale Ho's decision ensures that Adams and his legal team will need to defend it. And you know, you're going to trial on this, bro.
Yeah.
Trial set to begin in April, by the way. In 2021, when Adams won the Democratic primary for mayor, but was still technically serving as Brooklyn borough president, he approached the fire department commissioner about a safety inspection at the under construction Midtown skyscraper owned by the Turkish government. And in a dense 30-page ruling, Judge Ho addressed the arguments from Adams' legal team that Adams' actions at the time did not amount to a quid pro quo under the law. Judge Ho disagreed. Quote, ultimately, whether or not Adams used his official position as the Brooklyn borough president to exert pressure on the FDNY is a factual question for a jury to resolve, he wrote. And in a separate ruling, Ho also denied Adams' motion to move the trial up to April 1st from April 21st. Adams' legal team argued that would give both sides enough time to prepare for the trial, while also allowing for the trial to conclude further in advance of the Democratic mayoral primary scheduled for June 24th. So he wants to go fast.
That's interesting.
Yeah, normally it's like a thing to say, well, let's do it after the election, right? He wants to move it up, but Judge Ho said no. So, by the way, Judge Ho's a Trump appointee. And I wonder if Trump is going to pardon Eric Adams for all of these crimes, because Eric Adams is a Democrat in name only, I think. I mean, he was a Republican for a long time there.
Well, he floated out that he's thinking about running as a Republican.
Yeah.
He just said that.
Yeah. So we'll see if Trump pardons him.
Well, he got to get convicted first, right? Like,
no, not necessarily.
No?
You know,
the preemptive pardon.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yep.
Well, we'll see how that happens. Like we just said, in Arizona, they want to delay. But here, it's intriguing that Adams wants to speed it up. Mm-hmm. So different strategies going forward, and we'll see. What Judge Ho obviously isn't buying it, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and we'll watch it here for you on Cleanup on Aisle 45. All right, we have some more news that we have to get to. As is tradition, we will talk about this in the next segment. We always end with Rudy because we want to leave you feeling nice for the holidays, and so
and also give you a good laugh because Rudy is great laugh material.
Oh man, his new lawyer especially. All right, but we do have to take a quick break first, so stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Our last group of Hall of Fame patrons to thank includes Joan Qualls, a dinosaur in dental school. I like that one. Karen Sherman. Catherine Gilbert White is totally awesome at her job. Yes, you are, Miss White. Catherine Gilbert White. Clover's Tree 73. Dr. David Fran Reichenbach.
Reichenbach, yeah.
Reichenbach. There we go. Forgive me, Fran. Amazing in Massachusetts. Christine G. Passion. Veterinary for America 2024. The tyrant we deserve. Uh-oh. Interesting. All right. But as in tradition here at Clean Up on Aisle 45, I'm getting used to this and I am loving it, this part of the show. We finished the show with Rudy Giuliani's mounting legal troubles. First, so there's
a lot. Yeah, there's a few.
It's a lot of things. So first, a federal judge on Wednesday ordered Rudy Giuliani to appear in court in early January to face claims that he should be held in contempt for failing to turn over assets, including a New York apartment lease and a signed Joe DiMaggio shirt to 2 Georgia election poll workers who won a libel case against him. Judge Louis J. Lyman in Manhattan signed the order calling for the former New York City mayor and one-time personal lawyer to President-elect Donald Trump to appear before him on January the 3rd.
Ooh, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Rudy. The contempt hearing follows a contentious November hearing in which Giuliani, a former federal prosecutor, became angry at the judge and said Lyman was treating me unfairly.
Yeah, remember, he's like, you don't even know what I've done. I had tried to get the title to the car. You don't even know, stop. He was yelling at the judge, and the judge is like, sit down, no more outbursts.
Sit down, sir.
You don't get to talk anymore. You don't appear homeless to me. Okay. So we'll learn January 3rd whether Rudy complied with Judge Lyman's very specific instructions for turning over the rest of his stuff to Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. Remember, the judge was like, on Friday, you will drive a vehicle to this location. You will unpack the pallets and take photos of what needs to be handed over. You will then load it on the truck and then drive down the street to
step by step, Rudy. This is what you got to do.
Of Ms. Ruby and Shay Moss's choice. And then you must report that you have done, like, it was a very thorough, like, step-by-step thing that he had to do. It was all due December 13th. We'll find out whether he did it on January 3rd and whether or not he's going to be held in contempt. But there's more. There's more.
But wait, there's more.
Rudy could be in contempt in another case that will go on trial before the same judge, Judge Lyman, starting in January, about whether his Florida property has to be handed over. Lawyers for Moss and Freeman have asked Judge Lyman to hold Rudy in contempt because he hasn't handed over a single document in discovery. And this is separate from the contempt motion they filed for getting his assets that you just talked about, Harry. And it's separate from another contempt motion they filed with Judge Beryl Howell because Rudy won't stop defaming them. You'll recall Judge Howell gave Rudy an extra 30 days to respond to that contempt motion. So Rudy and his new lawyer, Camerata, have responded to this contempt motion, the one about discovery for his January trial over his Florida condo. And the response is just about as stupid as you'd expect. It reads, in part, every human being has political beliefs. And no matter what the court's personal beliefs are, the court should recognize that you have a defendant here with an enormous judgment against him, as the plaintiffs were awarded a judgment now in excess of $145 million, which includes $75 million in punitive damage. And this court should recognize that the plaintiffs' counsels are political and apparently are swayed toward the Democratic Party. And you have the defendant who was a Republican mayor and who was an attorney for the former and future President Donald Trump, who was and is deeply rooted in Republican beliefs. That's one sentence. There's no way that this court cannot view this case as a political case, because that's exactly what it is. Or there would never have been such an astronomical judgment against the defendant. So he sounds like Jan Brady to me. There's no way that this court cannot view this case as a political case. This is my boyfriend, George Glass.
George Glass.
It just sounds like...
Oh, my gosh.
It's
shut up,
like
Rudy.
You're in fifth grade, man.
Shut up. Well, actually, don't shut up, Rudy. Keep talking, because you give us a lot of material to talk about here. But guess how many times Rudy's lawyer mentions Hunter Biden in this filing? 8. 8 times. He mentions Hunter Biden 8 times. But I got an example for you. This court should know that one or more of plaintiffs' counsels was partners with the Hunter Biden as Boyce Schiller Flexner LLC president, Joseph Biden's son, and had been involved with, upon information and belief, Burisma Holdings and or Ukraine issues. What?
So one of Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss's lawyers worked at the same law firm?
Like, oh my gosh.
The sentence is hard to understand on its face.
It was hard for me to read it, but that was it. Rudy's lawyers, however, failed to mention that the single star witness in the Burisma case has been indicted for fabricating the entire story and has pled guilty for lying about it to the FBI.
Check this out. Rudy's lawyer says, no matter what anyone says, Marcia, the truth, in fact, is that plaintiffs are represented by those who believe in liberal democracy. And you have a defendant whose beliefs are the antithesis of the plaintiff's counsel. So right there, basically said Rudy Giuliani is the antithesis of liberal democracy. But okay, if that's what you meant to say, bro.
All right.
It goes on to say, Plaintiffs and their counsel are seeking to take every asset of the defendant before there is a change in administration from President Biden to President Trump. The fact is that this case evolved from the 2020 election, where defendant worked for President Trump, and while the plaintiff's counsel was believed to have supported President Biden, that's what it says. This is what this fierce prosecution of this case derives from. Okay. Grammarly is free. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Defendant was very outspoken against Hunter Biden and the Hunter Biden laptop, which many people said was Russian disinformation when the truth eventually came out that the Hunter Biden laptop was authentic and real.
5.
At least one of plaintiff's counsel had emails in the public domain with Hunter Biden on the same emails.
6. I'm just counting the Hunter Biden mentions.
And such counsel was special assistant to President Barack Obama, which is misspelled, and associate White House counsel. The fact is that this case is not really about the judgment that the plaintiffs obtain in a ghastly sum, among the largest judgment ever against an individual for defamation in the United States. This is a battle between the left and the right, and this is one of the last battles that exist, not plural, not that exists, from the 2020 election.
Listen, guys, listen, I'm reading along with this. This is hard to read. This is literally the court filing. It's grammatically, the spelling, it's all over the place. This is horrible.
Please know that if I sound stupid, I am just reading exactly what they wrote.
Yeah.
And of course, it wouldn't be Rudy without insulting the judge like he did with Beryl Howell, right? I can't even get a lawyer because they all think you're biased. That was a different contempt issue. But this one, the lawyer says, this court should try to avoid the politics involved in this case. When the honorable judge of this court was nominated for the current district judge position, no Democratic senators voted against the nomination of the honor judge. Okay, but
honorable,
the
Jesus.
Honor judge. But 29 Republican senators voted against the honorable judge. Hopefully, the honor judge will be able to be unbiased against defendant. However, even subconsciously, a human being can have political bias, and the rapid rocket docket approach by this court and entertaining so many of plaintiffs' motions and letters from the plaintiff's counsel and ruling against the defendant nearly 100% of the time is troubling.
Lord have mercy.
Woo!
I'd like to applaud Allison for making it through that. That was...
It's hard to read. It's hard. It makes me twitch a little, you know.
But I do want to go back to one thing that
whatever, honor judge. Hey, your honor judge.
One of the funniest words, he said, this ghastly judgment.
The ghastly amount.
I haven't heard that word in anything but like Scooby-Doo or
Scooby-Doo,
something.
yeah. If it weren't for you and these meddling judges, I would have gotten away with it.
Oh, my God, man. Later in the filing, Rudy's lawyer doubled down on the judge's bias, repeating that 29 Republicans voted against his appointment, insulting the judge, but fails to mention that Trump nominated the judge. Like, Jesus. Like, then it gets even more bizarre. Like, how much more bizarre can we get?
Oh, just wait.
It is the defendant's recent understanding that the honorable judge is the son of the late Arthur L. Lyman, who it has been discovered passed away at a time when defendant Rudy Giuliani was the prosecutor as the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, and the late Arthur L. Lyman was representing certain defendants in Drexel Lambert prosecution cases. Defendant hopes that defendant is afforded every right under the law by this court in light of the knowledge that the defendant before this court is the person who was prosecuting the honorable judge's late father, Arthur L. Lyman, clients when or around the time that the honorable judge's late father, Arthur L. Lyman, passed away. What? So now I guess it sounds like he's trying to get the judge to recuse himself now because...
One time in court, your dad was presiding over a case that Rudy was prosecuting, but then he died.
Did he?
So you should definitely... Human beings have bias.
Unbelievable.
Your dad... I mean, I don't know, man. This is one of the worst filings ever read. Like, Rudy was a lawyer for 8 million years. Like, I know he's not licensed to practice anymore because he's been disbarred everywhere.
But
couldn't he have
step of the way.
proofread this shit? Like, if my lawyer handed this to me and said, this is what I'm handing in for you, I would say, no, this is not what you are handing in for me. Let me rewrite this for you. I'm not a lawyer.
Chat GPT could write something better than this. Like, what in the world is going on here?
Yeah, but remember when Cohen did that and the Chat GPT made up cases that didn't exist, and the judge was like, "Bro, why shouldn't I hold you in contempt for this shit?"
Well, it's got to be better than this crap that Rudy submitted.
Just ask it not to cite any cases.
Oh
but
my God!
Run it through Grammarly. It's free, I think. At least it was when I was in school.
Let's hope so.
I mean,
because Rudy can't afford it. Anybody got a trial code to Grammarly?
The honor judge is the son of Arthur Lyman, discovered passed away at time when Rudolph Giuliani was prosecutor at United States Attorney. And the late Arthur Lyman was representing defendants in Drexel Lambert. Defendant hopes that defendant is afforded. That's a good one.
Oh, my God.
Every right under this law by the court in light of the knowledge that defendant before court is the person who was prosecuting Honorable Judge's late father Arthur Lyman clients. Honorable Judge's late father Arthur Lyman passed away, Arthur Lyman. Like, holy Jesus.
What the heck is going on? This is bad.
Anyway, just thought we'd share
that.
But
it's funny.
For the holidays, little holiday present under your tree, along with the Matt Gaetz report. If you want to hear the audio version, it is in your Daily Beans feed. It's free to the public. I wanted to put that out there.
Yes.
So people can listen to it instead of reading it. So you know what? Put your headphones on. Go for a walk outside. If it's not 3 degrees, if you're not in Minnesota.
Right.
And I keep forgetting I live in San Diego where it's like 70 all the time. And it's like, oh, just go for a nice walk outdoors. And people are like, no.
No, thank you.
But give it a listen and interested to know what you think about what they say about Department of Justice, what they say about the Florida's failure to bring charges, what they say about DOJ's failure to supply information. And I have some thoughts and commentary in the reading as well. For you to think about and, send us messages. You can write to us at hello@MuellerSheWrote with any of your thoughts. So that's our show. Thank you to Camerata, Rudy's attorney, for the good laughs there at the end.
Thank you for that.
I can't write comedy like that. It
wrote itself. Just go ahead and listen to these court cases. Wow.
it's pretty. Now I want to do an audio version of his filing just because it's just.
My gosh. Look at you getting all kinds of ideas.
Just so hilarious.
You may be onto something.
Yeah, perhaps. But anyway, I hope everybody's having a wonderful holiday season, whatever holidays you celebrate. Today's Christmas when this episode airs. So Merry Christmas to those who celebrate Christmas. And do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here, Harry? Who are you going to talk to about who are you going to try to get a meeting with?
Well, of course, I'm trying to get Susan Collins. I'm going to talk to Cassidy, a couple other senators that just appear to be, receptive and will just give me the time of day because the fight continues. But on this day, I'm going to spend it with my loved ones, spend this day with my family. I celebrate Christmas, so Merry Christmas to those that do. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. If you don't celebrate anything, I'm thinking about you too. And also, I have to acknowledge a lot of people don't like holidays. It brings back bad memories for people. So I'd like to acknowledge all of you all. You're in my thoughts. And if you could find anything that brings you peace, love, joy, happiness, embrace your time with that, even if it's not the holidays. But you have love here from Cleanup on Aisle 45 from me and Allison. I love you, and I'm wrapping a big hug around you now. So happy December 25th to you all. Oh, man, you're the sweetest dude to bring up that you see the folks that have a hard time during the holidays. I see you, and I love you, and it's not lost on me that everybody does not like Christmas, and you know what? That's okay. Yeah, I can like Christmas, and you can't, and I can still love you. So. Oh man! Now I got all like, oh, sappy, big old hugs, Allie. Oh, thank you, big old hugs, Harry, and I appreciate you so much. I'm so glad you're here with us on Cleanup on Aisle 45. Truly, just an invaluable resource. Thank you. It means a lot to me, and I know to our listeners as well. So thanks again. Thanks to our Hall of Fame patrons. If you want to become a patron, patreon.com/aisle45pod. We'll be in your ears this weekend. We're going to do a bonus this weekend. Let's do it. Why
All
not?
right.
Let's do it.
Let's do
Fuck
it.
yeah. Fuck yeah.
We'll be in your ears this weekend for a bonus episode. And everybody, last week's bonus episode is free to the public if you want to give a listen. We wanted to give everybody a little holiday gift, so it's free to the public. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. I'm Allison Gill.
Harry Dunn. Take care, y'all.
Cleanup on Aisle 45 is written, researched, and produced by Allison Gill, with editing by Molly Hockey. Our art and logo design are by Joelle Reeder and Moxie Design Studios, and our music is composed and performed by Adam Orr. Cleanup on Aisle 45 is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, visit mswmedia.com. MSW Media.